Some children weren't raised. They were trained. Trained to stay quiet when things got loud. Trained to understand pain they were never supposed to see. Trained to fix problems they didn't create. Why did you feel guilty for resting? Why did you become the emotional support for people who were supposed to protect you? Why did asking for help feel more dangerous than staying silent? And why do children who grow up too fast become adults who never feel safe enough to slow down? By the end of this video, we're answering the darkest questions about what really happens to a child's mind when survival replaces childhood. You've probably heard this before. You're very mature for your age. And maybe someone even said it to you when you were young. You didn't cry much. You understood situations quickly. You handled responsibilities. You avoided childish behavior. Adults praised you for it. But what if I told you that many children who are called mature are not actually mature? They are adapting to survive? Because psychologically, children who grow up too fast usually don't do it by choice. They do it because their environment didn't allow them to remain a child. In psychology, when a child becomes emotionally or mentally mature before their age, it is often linked to a process called parentification. Parentification happens when a child is forced to take on adult responsibilities inside the family system. Instead of being cared for, they become the caregiver. Instead of being emotionally supported, they become the emotional support. Instead of expressing needs, they learn to suppress them. They become the peacemaker, the problem solver, the emotional support system, the responsible one. All before their brain is fully developed. There are two types of early maturity: emotional parentification and instrumental parentification. Emotional parentification. This is when a child becomes their mother's therapist, their father's emotional support, the mediator during arguments, the listener to adult problems. They start managing emotions that are not even theirs. They comfort parents, they calm siblings, they absorb stress, but nobody comforts them. 2. Instrumental parentification. This happens when a child becomes the caretaker of siblings, the one who cooks, the one who cleans, the one who handles responsibilities, sometimes even financial helper. They start doing things that psychologically belong to adulthood. They become a mini-adult. Now the important question is, why does this happen? Why do some children play with toys while others learn emotional survival? Here are the most common reasons. Financial hardship. When a family is struggling financially, children often feel like, I need to help. They stop asking for toys. They stop demanding things. They become understanding. They start thinking about survival instead of enjoyment. Parental illness. If a parent suffers from depression, addiction, physical disability, chronic illness, the child automatically steps in. They cook, they care, they comfort, because someone has to. Emotionally immature parents. Sometimes parents overshare stress, seek advice from children, treat child like a friend, use child for emotional support. Now the child becomes a listener, a therapist, a support system, and slowly, they stop being a child. Divorce or family conflict. In households with constant fights, children become mediators, peacekeepers, emotional shock absorbers. They suppress their own emotions to maintain peace in the house. Trauma or abuse. In unsafe environments, the child's brain enters hypervigilance mode. They constantly observe tone, monitor mood, read expressions, avoid conflict. They learn, if I stay calm, I stay safe. The question is how their brain develops differently. Children who grow up too fast don't develop emotionally in the usual way. They learn to suppress emotions, stay alert, prioritize others, hide vulnerability. Their brain focuses on survival, not expression, safety, not exploration. Over time, this can cause emotional numbness, identity confusion, difficulty understanding their own feelings because they spent years understanding everyone else's. Now, surprisingly, there are some advantages. Children who mature early often grow into adults who are highly responsible, independent, emotionally intelligent, empathetic, organized, resilient. They can handle stress better. They understand people better. They often become leaders or caregivers. People describe them as wise beyond their years. But this maturity comes with a cost. Mental health risks. Such individuals are more likely to face anxiety, depression, burnout, chronic stress, emotional exhaustion, emotional struggles. They may struggle with expressing feelings, asking for help, trusting people, setting boundaries, receiving love, because they are used to giving, not receiving. Relationship problems. As adults, they often become caregivers in relationships, feel responsible for partners' emotions, fear abandonment, feel guilty resting. They confuse love with responsibility. Identity issues. Many feel like they missed their childhood. They don't know what they like. They feel older than everyone. They feel emotionally numb because their needs were ignored for years. So here's the truth. Early maturity is not always strength, wisdom, or intelligence. Sometimes it is a survival mechanism. A child becomes mature because the environment was unsafe for being a child. And maybe that's why the calmest person in the room is often the one who had to grow up the fastest. Is it normal for a child to be mature for their age? Being slightly mature is normal, but when a child avoids playing, suppresses emotions, takes on adult responsibilities, constantly worries about family problems, it may not be maturity. It could be a trauma response. Sometimes, what looks like emotional intelligence is actually emotional suppression learned for survival. Do mature children have higher intelligence? Not always. Early maturity is often confused with intelligence, but many mature children are actually hyper-aware, anxious, emotionally alert, constantly scanning for danger or tension. This behavior is driven by survival instincts, not necessarily IQ. Can early maturity be a trauma response? Yes. Many psychologists believe that children who mature too fast are responding to neglect, emotional instability, illness in family, financial hardship, divorce, or loss. Their brain adapts by prioritizing safety over innocence. What problems do mature children face as adults? As adults, they may struggle with emotional burnout, anxiety, difficulty trusting others, guilt when relaxing, fear of vulnerability, overthinking, relationship issues, chronic responsibility mindset. They often feel like they always have to be in control. Is growing up too fast harmful? In the short term, it helps them survive. But in the long term, it may lead to suppressed emotions, identity confusion, emotional numbness, difficulty forming boundaries, loss of childhood experiences. They may become functional adults, but emotionally exhausted individuals. Why do mature children struggle to enjoy life later? Because their brain was trained early to solve problems, anticipate danger, manage emotions of others. Relaxation can feel unsafe, irresponsible, or even selfish. Enjoyment becomes unfamiliar. Can emotionally mature children heal later in life? Yes, with self-awareness, therapy, emotional expression, safe relationships, inner child work. Healing begins when they finally learn it's okay to stop surviving and start living. If you were the child who had to grow up too fast, remember, maturity helped you survive, but healing will help you live.